Yeah, in the previous session we have talked about one aspect, that is the coaching. Uh, Everywhere whenever we are talking about the talent management, right, it is very important what type of the leadership is there, and that leadership is of the number of ways, and one of the ways is that is the coaching is there. Now here I will also like to add one word, that is the coaching with compassion and coaching for compliance. In the previous session we have seen that there was a little bit limitation, that is the how at the time of the implementation either people may lose the interest. Those who have started with that particular project, they will bring the project at the acceptable stage, but when the question of the implementation of the project will come, and then they will say no. So, therefore, in that case they may lose the interest, or they might have started with the another project, and they might be busy with the another interest, right. So, therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is that leader, that coach, he has to be very much professional and committed for this type of implementation. So, in this session we will talk about the coaching with compassion and coaching for the compliance, overview of the international change theory. The intentional change theory will be, that is the, here it is used, there is an ICT, it is not the information communication and technology, it is the intentional change theory. 5 discovery phases of ICT, the ideal self and a personal vision is there, the real self, setting a learning agenda, experimentation and practice. In this session we will talking about these 4, and the 5th one that we will talk in the next session. So, first we will go with the coaching with compassion. Coaching is a type of the helping relationship. So, what a coach does, the learner, right, and that the trainee or that mentee is having certain qualities, the personalities, and that quality or personalities, with the help of the coach, that capabilities. And here in the earlier also we have talked, that is about the developing the new capabilities, potential appraisal. So, dear friends, these are not only the terminologies or words, this is really a coaching system where you are identifying the potential of the learner. So, potential appraisal is to be done, and on the basis of that potential appraisal, which we have discussed earlier how to do that, and on basis of that potential appraisal you identify the talent. Now, you want to nurture and develop that talent. So, it is a helping relationship. So, your mentee wants to learn, to target, to qualify, and therefore, the coach help him to support his capabilities and developing the new capabilities. The establishment of a coach-coaches relationship, which is the resonant, and therefore, first and foremost is, that is the, which is the trusting, trust others, each other. If there is no trust, there cannot be coaching. What type of trust? There are certain trust builders. Trust builders, their support, that creates a trust. Time tested, with the period of time they have been tested, that is how they are going to create the trust for each other, that coach and mentee, and as a result of which there is a trusting relationship is there. And then inspiring, you can, I always tell you, that is my mantra is I can, we will, I will, right. So, therefore, always that is the inspiring. When the goal is decided, goal is appraised, goal is evaluated, goal is examined, and then we have decided, yes, we will achieve this goal, let anything may come, but all barriers will be crossed, high jump, right, and therefore that is the inspiring is there. And energizing, what is energizing is, that is the to do, to achieve, right. So, that achievement, to gain and to achieve, that is becoming very very important, that is the inspiring and energizing, appears to be the key to the sustainability. So, whatever is sustainable, that is the key of any change or learning effort. So, definitely whenever we are talking about the sustainability of any change, then yes, change management, minimize the resistance to change, maximizing the favorableness, and therefore, in that case acceptance for change. So, therefore, that is this trusting, inspiring, energizing to be the key to the sustainability. Yes, it will be of any change or learning effort is there, right, and that resonance derived from the positive emotions. How this trust, inspiring and energizing, right, and then it comes from the mindfulness, hope and compassion. Right. So, if I want to, I am thinking about the building the relationship as a independent variable with the dependent variable. So, in that case our these compassion, that compassion, coaching with compassion will be having the trust, inspiring and energizing, right, and this inspiring and inspiring will come through the hope, trust will come through the mindfulness, and energizing, will be coming through the compassion one side, right, and then definitely energizing will come through the inspiring also. Yes. Right, or hope also. This I would like to make the research equation, that is the somebody is searching for the research topic, then in that case that is this trusting, inspiring and energizing, which is a coaching is required, coaching conditions are required, and in case of the compassion it will be the mindfulness, hope, right, and the compassion is there, right. So, this compassion can be the mediating and mediating role, the mediator role. So, therefore, that will be created. So, here we will find that is the whenever we are talking about the coaching with compassion, this trusting, inspiring and the energizing with the mindfulness, hope and compassion, that will be becoming the conditions for the developing that the nurturing and development of the coaching. We call this approach coaching with compassion. This helps excite the coaches about the future they envisage for themselves, as well as providing them with the tools needed to maintain this excitement as they move towards this future. So, therefore, the coaches when they are teaching, they are coaching, inspiring others, right. So, what they are looking for? They are looking for because this is a coaching with compassion, right. So, they are looking for that is the excitement that in the future they will be making this particular move. Many coaching frameworks emphasize the achievement of externally derived a defined standard as a benchmark for development, right. So, they hold coaches accountable to company metrics, numerical targets and bottom lines. We refer to these approaches as coaching for compliance, and note with regret that they continue to enjoy pride of place in the coaching systems and protocols employed by many organizations. That they are to this particular style, that is by the compliances, that is called the coaching for compliance. Why they are doing this? Because they are doing for the company metrics and the targets, numerical targets, achieving the targets. So, one side we can say these are the materialistic achievements and not the spiritual achievements. When we are having the spiritual achievement in coaching, that is the coaching with compassion. When you are having the coaching with the materialistic values achievement, like the targets are there, metrics are there, and they enjoy the pride by saying the systems and protocols, that is, yes, they are into the higher positions, achieving the promotions, getting the recognition by the increments, promotions, status, power, right. So, then we will say it is a coaching for compliance and not the coaching for the compassion, right. So, in both the cases it is the different. These practices can have the effect of the depersonalizing the coaches, right, because they reduce them to cogs in a wheel greased to operate on a human production line. They also see coaches as source of problems to be fixed rather than possibilities to be groomed. A wonderful statement. So, are you here to see the problems to be fixed, or here to groom yourself? If you are going to be the groom yourself, then you are with me, because it is a coaching with compassion. This is not the coaching with compliance. This is elective subject, it is a voluntarily subject. So, therefore, in that case there is not the compliance. If you are studying this subject for the compliance, it is your choice, but if you are studying this subject with the compassion, that is my choice. So, therefore, in that case it is the coaches are here for the sources of problems to be fixed, right, to fix your problem of the pre-PhD coursework credit or the subject credit or something like this, compulsion, it is a compulsion. Organizational metrics, then that is the problems to be fixed rather than the possibilities of the groomed is there. So, compliance not only diminishes the professional development of the coaches, because इतने में इतना ही मिलेगा, यही करेंगे बस, but it is also ineffective for leveraging their talent and using it to benefit the organization. So, that the coach's talent itself, that will not be the 100% or more than 100%, because they are going for that particular compliance. So, coaching for the compliance and the coaching for compassion, always the coaching for compassion is better hand as compared to the coaching for compliance. However, the coaching for compliance is also important, but how do you achieve it? If you achieve the coaches for compliance with the compassion, it is a wonderful matrix. So, now we will see the overview of the intentional change theory. Intentional change theory is similar to a number of other theories of motivation and change. As with the Ryan and Desi's 2000 self-determination theory, information and change theory, intentional and change theory stresses the utmost importance of individual competence and autonomy. It is, these are the really the contributions, right, for developing the individual competence and the developing the autonomy, right. So, therefore, in that case, whenever we talk about the intentional change theory, it is a self determination theory, right. So, there it is giving you the developing the competency and autonomy. A sense of meaningful relatedness to others. As with Higgins 1998 regulatory focus theory, the intentional change theory emphasizes a promotion focus orientation. So, therefore, it is the what is the focus? Focus is the promotion. So, focused on one's hopes and the pursuit of a personal ideal, right, and you want to achieve that particular personal ideal over a prevention focus orientation focused on promoting safety and security over growth, and therefore, it is the emphasizing on promotion focus orientation over a preventive focus orientation. So, when we are talking about the prevention focus orientation, it is a focus on promoting safety and securing the overgrowth. As with Frederick's 2001 broad and build theory, intentional change theory recognizes the power of positive emotions, their ability to broaden our understanding and appreciation of ourselves and others over time. So, therefore, we are going to make this appreciation what we want to do with ourselves and others over time, and to promote the enhancement of our overall well-being. Well-being means happiness. So, therefore, this ability for the understanding ourselves and the appreciation of ourselves, right, that is very important, and it is becoming with the period of time, that is understanding of self and appreciation of self, that is becoming important, and to promote the enhancement of our overall well-being happiness, that is how we are having the happiness with ourselves, that will becoming the enhancement. What distinguishes the intentional change theory is its recognition that sustained desired change seldom occurs in a consistent and continuous manner. So, therefore, if that change is occurring in a consistent continuous manner, then definitely we will be able to perform, and that it may also apply at different organizational levels of analysis. So, what are the different levels of analysis are there, and it will be going through the organizational level of analysis. Rather, change is more often punctuated and discontinuous, right. So, therefore, because there is a resistance to change. So, always there will be the questions for the change, and if there is a question for the change, the people will ask, and that is why it is punctuated and discontinuous also. So, lot of efforts are made to bring the change, right. Many people try to bring the change into their routine practices, many people they try to bring the changes into the organizational systems or management by process, but they are not successful. The reason is the process of intentional change represents an individual's progressive shift through several stages, like known as discovery phases. Sustained desired change occurs as a fractal of these phases across multiple levels. So, as the discovery changes, they change with across multiple levels, and that is making the more sustainable. And this type of changes are including the teams, organizations, communities, countries, and even the global changes there. So, the intentional change theory represents that is and it is an individual's progress shift, and this is for the sustained desired changes by the individual, and it is applicable to the individual level, organizational level, state level, national level, and local level. So, therefore, that is applicable. The stage third, the 5 discovery of the intentional change theory, the ideal self and a personal vision. Second one is the real self. Third one is setting a learning agenda. and fourth one is the experimentation and practice. The ideal self and a personal vision that we will talk first. Before making an intentional change, we need to discover who we want to be, what change we want to be. Like many times you must have seen that is the cat is looking as a lion in the mirror. When cat is reflecting, see the reflection of herself, so she say she does not see as a the cat, rather than she herself as a lion. So, who we want to be, that we should be very clear, and what we call our ideal self is an image of the person we want to be. Do you know your ideal self? That what you want to be? There are two types of the personalities. One is internal locus of control, other is the external locus of control. Internal locus of control means those believe in themselves. External locus of control means those believe in the external factors. So, personality is there of individual. It is, there might be the two brothers, two class fellows. So, one's personality is having the internal locus of control, I can, I will, and therefore, that is the ideal self. I will change myself, I will become like this, I will learn this, I will do this. So, that is the ideal self. So, that is what is that? That is what we want to be. So, if you want to be the technocrats, so then definitely you will change your personality accordingly, and you will be looking for the personal, right, or the way you want to be into the aristocracy, then aristocrat, right. So, therefore, in that case it is the ideal self what you want to be, and that will give you the personal vision. Like you are studying this course for a, to achieve a particular vision, a goal or objective in your life. So, therefore, that is the whatever the change you make, first you know yourself, right, I know, you know. So, therefore, what we call ourselves ideal self, that we are creating. How to create the ideal self? An image of desired future, what we want to be. So, it depends from individual to individual. As we say, that is the there is the coaching with compliance. So, that is the desired future, power, administration, and coaching with compassion. So, that is a facilitator, the leader, open for all. So, therefore, an image of the desired future, what exactly you want to be. Hope that one can attain it. I always talk about this. One can, I can. And I will. Desired future, one can. So, therefore, an image of the desired future and creating that what I will do, aspect of one's core identity. Every individual is having the core competency, understanding the core competency, which includes the enduring strengths. What strengths are there, that is competency, or wish to build for the desired future, and for the desired future what I can build. So, therefore, in that case these three components for the image of our ideal self, that is becoming very, very important. A beautiful concept, ideal self versus the out self. It is all too easy to fool oneself into believing that what is actually another person's imposed perspective, what we often call the out self, in contrast to the ideal self, is in fact the ideal state people have thought of for themselves. So, therefore, to carry this wrong perception, it is easy to fool, means it is carrying the wrong perception, that is what is actually another person's imposed perspective is there. So, what he wants to be. So, therefore, it is the fact the ideal state people have thought for themselves, that is what they want to be in their desired future, that has to be considered. Here in this table we will find that in the ideal self what is a driver, what a person wants to do, and in the ought self what people feel they ought to do, that he is doing. Motivation type, autonomous motivation, controlled motivation. So, here in the ideal self no limitation. Self regulatory focus, promotion, prevention. Psychological state, that is the positive emotional attractors and negative emotional attractors, NEA. So, therefore, in that case it is the psychological state, that is the positive emotional attractors, that is becoming very important, or negative emotional attractors, that is also becomes very important, and this type of the variables can be taken for the research. So, motivation types, when the autonomous and controlled is there, and when you are going for the promotion, the ideal self is promotion, and positive emotional attractors. So, what will be result? Result will be sustained desired change, what change you wanted to be, and that you will bring. But ought self is, it is controlled one, prevention is there, negative emotional attractors, So, short term behavior change is there, and as a result what people feel they ought to do. So, then in that case it will be negative, and therefore, it will not be the ought self. So, when we compare ideal self and ought self, however, it is also true that there is nothing wrong if you want to be the ought self, but you have to judge and understand, that is you want to be, that is the what people feel they ought to be, and not what a person wants to do. So, then ought self will be there. There are certain business acumen, those who are coming, who have evolved through the ought self also. But here there is a short term behavior change is there, and which is a negative emotional attractors. So, what is required? Real self. In contrast to the ideal self, the real self should prompt the question, one is ideal self, one is the ought self, and one is the real self. So, what is that? That is the real self. Who am I now relative to where I want to be? So, when we talk about like the Gita, right, to know yourself, who am I, why I am on this earth, what I am supposed to contribute, where is my destiny, where I have to reach. So, where I want to be, getting at one's real self requires a combination of honestly reasoned, that is the factual assessment about one's strengths and weaknesses, and that will lead the person. This process of soul searching, the real self may also be determined by some combinations of a range of feedback modalities. So, therefore, when we are talking about our soul searching, then definitely the real self may also be determined, what I want to. So, 360-degree feedback assessments will be there, and the personal strengths inventories will be there. So, the 360-degree feedback assessment which we have talked in the earlier sessions, that is the we want to take the feedback from our all stakeholders, superior, subordinate, colleagues, right, and also the personal strengths inventories, what are my strengths inventories are there, and how I am working on those inventories. Setting a learning agenda. So, therefore, when we want to the real self, the third discovery phase of the intentional change framework theory is setting and developing a learning agenda. Taking the previous two phases together, this entails a recognition that gaps inevitably exist between the various aspects of the ideal and real selves. Ideal self and real self. Ideal self what I want to be, real self what I am. So, as such individuals need to make a commitment to closing these gaps by identifying practices and behavior that will move them closer to their ideal self. Naturally, I want to be like X personality, ideal self. Then my all activities to be directed and groomed according to the X. So, it make a commitment to closing these gaps by identifying practices and behavior I should follow that will move them closer to ideal self. So, these practices and behaviors that is required to be changed or developed. In general, self development terms such as learning agenda may take the form of a personal action plan, which explicitly details the step one must take to prompt effective and sustained change. So, while developing a learning plan ultimately falls to the case, coaches can provide encouragement and feedback on specific details. They can use sympathetic questions to ensure that each aspect of the plan is the optimal for the pursuit of the coach's ideal self. So, it is important, that is the role of the coaches when we are going right from the ideal self right to the ought to the self and real self, and the development close towards the ideal self by the real self, knowing our own strengths and weaknesses and going towards the ideal self, right, and there is a role of the coach. If the coach is able, competent enough to bring and explore your self first, real self, and not with the ought to self. Ought to self is not in the question, but the objective goal and wish is to be ideal self. And when we are going for ideal self, feedback on the coach that will provide encouragement and feedback on specific details, and they can use the sympathetic questions to ensure that each aspect of the plan is optimal for the pursuit of the coach's ideal self. So, this is very important, that is the encouragement and feedback by the coaches in detail. They can use sympathetic questions to ensure that each aspect of the plan is optimal. Whatever has been planned, it has to be going to be the optimal for the pursuit of the coach's ideal self. Coach's ideal self is that is the best performer, that is why it has been used to coach's ideal self, which you want to be. So, optimal for the pursuit of the coach's ideal self, that is becoming a very important. Coaches will have different learning styles, and so configuring coaching sessions to leverage on their individual learning style. Are they more practice oriented or abstraction oriented will best ensure that they stay on the path toward their ideal self, right. So, therefore, we have to see that is what type of the coaching is there, and that configuring the coaching into the ideal self to the abstraction oriented, and therefore, they will go towards the ideal self will be there. The last part is experimentation and practice. So, this is about the philosophy, what is ideal self, ought to be self, real self, coach's roles, coach's direction, his feedback, his guidance, right, and coaching with the compassion and coaching with the compliance and all. The act of aspiring towards the ideal self requires an ongoing inner dialogue about the various cues, behavior and activities. That is the whatever is inspiring me. So, my inner dialogue is to be there. Talent should have a strong inner dialogue to know various cues. Cues means that is what I do normally. Am I short tempered or I am the high tempered? Is this my way is the highway or it is a team building? Do we appreciate the advices? Am I a good learner? So, cues, and then accordingly how do I behave? Because my cues and my behavior will leading the different activities, and all these they are leading in the ideal direction. If they are leading into the ideal directions, actions, behavior in that ideal direction, then wonderful. There will not be much difference between the ideal self and real self, because that has been developed with the cues, behaviors and activities directed towards the action behavior in that ideal direction. So, this will make you the taking time to the thoughtful experiment with and refine the practices that have proven successful in pushing oneself ideal self is a crucial step, and making the constantly aware of the available channels at his all her disposal for sustainability desired change. We have started with the desired change. So, that desired change that will be achieved. As with the learning agenda that it seeks to update and refresh the exact nature and potential benefits of the experimentation and practice process. This is very important, experimentation. Without experimentation, developing the skills, it will not be possible to achieve the ideal self, and at least we have to develop our real self. That will reflect both the individual carrying out the experimentation and the particular domain in which that individual wishes to change, and therefore, he should do that was experimentation, and that experimentation will give the results, and that results will tell whether you are green, pink or yellow, means you can, you cannot, you have potential. So, therefore, in that case if we follow these steps, I am sure that is the we will be close to the ideal self, and the talent that your employees, they should be exposed for this, yourself also and your the employees also for a executive. So, in that case you will find you are nurturing and developing the talent in true sense. Thank you.